Hello, welcome back. It's Jeff Byers. I'm your instructor for ANY 150, and this is Module 3. I wanted to take you through some more modeling tools in Maya. So let's go ahead and get right to it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on a plane. So we've already got a lot of subdivisions. So you can see that every time I create a primitive, polygon primitive, you have all of these translates and subdivisions that you can change. So if I click on that, you can see that I can click on the width and the height. That's all self-explanatory, I'm sure. So we're going to bring this down to, let's just say 1 by 1. I'm going to get rid of that by just deleting the history. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to subdivide this. So I'm going to add divisions. Let's say we get into a situation where we need to add divisions. So let's go ahead and find out. I'm going to hold down the space bar how to create divisions. So let's go to Edit Mesh and add divisions. Now you can go into here into the option box and we can go to reset it so we can get it back where we had it. You have a choice of exponentially or linearly. I just use exponentially, and the division level depends on how many times you want to divide it. So you divide it. Basically, what is going to happen if I click on what's on now 1, add division is going to cut it in half into 4 pieces instead of 1. So let's go ahead and make sure that's quads, okay, and add divisions. And so now it is broken into half in both ways. So now instead of just 1 face, we've got 4. Okay. So I can go in here and I can change that to 2. You can see how that just cuts it in half every single time. It doubles it every time you do this. Okay. So it subdivides it. Basically, it's just a subdivision utility tool that you can use to go ahead and subdivide it up. Kind of the same way that when you smooth something, it subdivides it. All right, so that's how you can create divisions. Okay, let's go to the next tool. Okay, the next tool is going to be the Bevel tool. So let's go ahead and select the Bevel tools. Go ahead and select Edit Bevel. Now we're going to have to select edge to bevel. So let's go ahead and do all the edges here. And go to holding down the space bar, go to Edit Mesh and Bevel. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and edit Reset Settings and go ahead and click on Bevel. That's the best way to get started with Bevel. Alright, so we've got the menu bar or menu box that comes with it. So you can see that it bevels the object. So the fraction is the depth or the width between that bevel. So go ahead and hold down the middle mouse button. You can actually just click on the left mouse button, and you can see that by changing this, now it does snap. You can see that, and you can type in different fractions in here. Let's go to 0.15. So you can either do this, it kind of snaps, kind of see that snapping. Okay. You can also type it into if you don't get the result that you want. Okay. Right. So let's do something like 0.3. Now segments is how many segments that you would want, how smooth it will look. Okay. So you can either type that in or just left mouse button over top of the word, it highlights. So it works really slick. I'm going to go ahead and click on this and right click over that. Now I can turn off the wireframe on shaded. You can see that we've got a nice curved edge. Okay. Now beveling works really good for objects that are small, that you don't need a whole, you're not going to see really close. So we'll talk about more about that, beveled versus edge loops and fencing and all that stuff in hard surface modeling. But right now we're just kind of focused on this. And the depth, if we select the depth, you can see that it does change the way the bevel looks. Either it's going out, or you can have it cave in, and whatever you desire, whatever works for you. You can see we get a nice looking bevel there as well. Okay. Alright, so we're going to talk about some different attributes that are in the bevel tool, one being the mitering tool, but we're going to go ahead and show you the differences between the two. So I'm going to click on that edge. We're going to do inside bevel here. These are the hardest bevels to do, not outside edges, but inside edges. So let's go ahead and select that, and let's go to bevel, and let's go ahead and get that reset. Okay, and set that to 4, and we'll just leave it the way it is. Okay, so this is what basically the bevel tool gives you. This looks nice. I mean, that's okay, but the rest of it is garbage, meaning that we've got a triangle here. Everything else is quadrangles. Looks okay that way, but you'd have to get rid of that triangle. That's just going to be a problem. Okay, and that's the problem that I see with beveling. I don't like beveling. I usually like to do fencing, or you know, what I've been describing is when I'm modeling, adding edge loops, supporting edge loops to, and a lot of people call it fencing, supporting edge loops, whatever you want to call it. It looks a little bit better and it's cleaner than a bevel. Now the bevel will give you some good results, but you have to be far away from it for it to look good. If you get up close, you'll have some shading issues, which we'll talk about when we get into hard surface modeling. Alright, so I'm going to go Control Z back. So I'm going to show you mitering. So I'm going to click on one face. I'm going to right click, go to face mode, and select two faces. Go into the bevel tool now, and in here under mitering I'm going to click on uniform. So I'm going to go ahead and click on bevel. Alright, so it looks good. So what happens is it beveled all those four corners together, and so you can see that can work really well for you. Everything's quadrangled, so you're good to go. You could bring this right directly into ZBrush or Mudbox. No issues, no problems. Now if we go from uniform to patch, though, we can see that there's a problem here. We have an n-gon, which means that we have an edges, you know, a polygon that has more than 4 edges. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've got too many edges, and we'd have to cut through all the way around to meet the other side to fix it. And you have to do that for all of them. That's kind of a pain, so we don't want that. Patch, we can have radial. Radial's the same thing. We're okay. Everything's quads except for this part right here. That would be considered an n-gon, which would not go into ZBrush or Mudbox. Now you could triangulate it again, and that would be fine, and you can bring it into those paint programs. But we really try to strive not to have triangles because of that reason. All right, so let's look at it one more time and take a look at the next one, which is none. Now I prefer this one over all of them. There's no pinching, but the problem is there's an n-gon. I do have to fix it, which means I have to go in there and just basically do my cuts, right? So I have to do this. Here we go. Okay, and so you do that to all of them, and that will basically give you your nice edges. So quadrangles all the way around. You have to do that for all of these. Okay, and that'll give you that you can bring that into ZBrush, no problem. All right, so let's go back and let's hit the Q key to get out of the tool. Q key to get out of a tool. And that's it. That's beveling. We'll go ahead and go on to the next tool. Okay, the bridge tool allows you to bridge between two edges of an object. So it has to be one object, right? So I actually created these two boxes deleted the faces on each one, and then I had to combine them. So you have to have the object, it has to be one. Okay, you can't have two, you can't bridge between two separate objects. Okay, alright, you have to have them combined. So you can go in here and to combine, or you can hold down the space bar, go to mesh combine. So that's how you can do that. So bridge, let's go into edit mesh and go to bridge. So we've got to have the edges that we want to bridge. Let's just do these two right now, and go to edit mesh and bridge. Okay, and you can see we've got divisions we can change. Now I'm just holding my left mouse button over the object or over the name and just moving it. You can type it in here as well. I can taper. Okay, which is kind of cool. You can taper it. You can also twist it, which is really cool. Okay. Alright, so go ahead and taper that out a little bit. And you can continue just kind of playing with it a little bit between the taper and the twist. Okay. So that's the bridge tool. On to the next one. Next tool I'm going to show you is Circularize, and it's a wonderful tool. I'm going to go ahead, and you need to have border edges around the faces. So I'm going to select the faces. This is how it works. Select your faces, make sure you have border around, otherwise it either won't work or it just turns it into a circle. So this is how you actually create a circular object within your quadrangle box. So this is a wonderful tool. Edit mesh, circularize. Go into that, make sure you reset the attributes, and go ahead and click on circularize. And normal offset is how you basically, again, if you click on the normal offset and just move your mouse back and forth, you can get it pushed in or pulled out. That's basically the offset. Radial offset is how, the scaling, basically the scaling of the surface that you've circularized. And normal orientation, we can either do automatic edge loop, which pushes it down, or averages everything out. I just keep it to automatic. Twist, this will allow you to twist the surface on top. Okay. Relax interior, basically that just adjust spacing between the components. I don't really use that. Alignment, we can align automatically, or because we've already offset this, I can go in here and have it flat again. If for some reason I can take it off. Then you can see that grays out the normal offset. I'm not exactly sure why they put that in there, but and then we got the average. So let's go back to automatic. That will turn that back on. And even the distributes specifies whether or not the circularized vertices are evenly distributed along the circle's circumference. So we could add divisions. So we want evenly distribute on, okay. And if we want to add subdivisions to that, we can do one on here, and that will give us subdivisions. So you can see, since we have the evenly distribute on, if I right click over this, go to vertex, you can see that it evenly distributes. Now this causes problems again because this will cause a n-gon. Okay, so we now have a 5-sided polygon instead of a 4-sided polygon, and that's not what we want. So I usually just go back to selection mode and just delete that. Alright, so that's the Circularize tool. It's a great tool, and I use it all the time, and we'll be using that when we create our models. Let's go on to the next tool. Okay, we're going to move on to the Collapse tool. So the Collapse tool, we have a basically a 4-panel, 4-subdivision plane. And so what we're going to do is we're going to collapse some pieces here. It doesn't work on vertices, so if I click on an edge or a face, it will work just fine. So let's say I want to collapse this. So this is what the collapse tool is all about. Edit mesh, and notice that we don't have an option box. It's pretty simple, and it just collapses that face in on itself and then welds all the vertices together. So if you want to just collapse this edge, okay, you can go in here to collapse. You can see that it collapses that one edge. Notice that this edge, these two vertices welded together. Okay, so this is a way of creating some different shapes. If I go in here and do a collapse here as well, you can see that it collapses those. And this is what's mainly used a lot when you're cleaning up your models. When you find a triangle, you can usually collapse edges together until you get quadrangles. Okay, so that's a way of actually cleaning up your model. Right, that's the collapse tool. Now we're going to move on to the next tool. Okay, the next tool is called Connect Components. So we just created a flat plane with 10 subdivisions on width and height, and then we're going to go into, hold down the space bar, go to Edit Mesh, and we're going to go to Connect. Right, so what I need to do before I do that, I've got to create what is it going to connect to. So let's go ahead and just kind of do kind of a zigzaggedy thing here. Alright, so there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and go into Edit Mesh and go to Connect. Okay, and you can see here we've got Insert, and with Edge Flow, adjust Edge Flow and go ahead and connect, and you can see that it connects all of these together. It gives you an edge all the way across, which does it automatically for you, which is kind of nice, and it can be time consuming depending on the object you're trying to create. Right, to the next tool. Okay, the next tool we're going to show you is the Detach tool. So I created a cube and I went into face mode. I'm going to select a face and I'm going to go to Edit Mesh and we're going to click on Detach. Again, this does not have an option box. Pretty simple. Whatever you select, it will detach. Okay, this one's still selected to it. I can hit the G key because I just did. It just reinvokes it. And then you can see that I can continue detaching these faces. Okay, so that's the Detach tool. Let's go ahead and go on to the next tool. Okay, the next tool is the Extrude tool, which is easy to use. You can either extrude a point or an edge. So if you do a face, you can do Control E, and that comes up with the extrude face. We've got thickness. You can do that with the distance. You can also type in the distance you want. Okay, and you can see we've got an equal amount right here, meaning the distance is the same because it's 1 unit. Okay, local Z translate. You can see that moves that up. Offset kind of gives us a kind of like scaling the object. It's basically the same as clicking on one of these guys right here. Divisions, you can add divisions to this as well, which is kind of nice. And keep faces together is something that I did not show you before that can be helpful. So let's take, for instance, I have these faces I want to extrude. Okay, I can do an extrude and then pull those out. Whoops. Pull those out like that. And the nice thing about keep faces together is that all these faces are kept together while they're being extruded. But what if I don't want those on? If I want them separate, like separate panels, I can turn that off, and I can hit that green little cube right there and have them separate. And so these will be separate, and can kind of create 4 separate pieces, divisions, and you can continue to extrude those if you want to, and continue manipulating those. So that's really powerful. So that keep faces together tool makes a difference. If you want to keep the faces together to create your object, it really depends on what you're trying to model. Right, on to the next tool. The next tool is called the Merge tool. So we want to merge some vertices together. We can do that. So if I want to collapse some vertices together, now these are all uniform. So let's just say we push this one really close to this one, we want to merge those two together. Okay, so we select those two. And we can go into Edit Mesh and we can merge. It's pretty simple. We've got an option box here. We've got a threshold. That's what we get. So if I turn the threshold up to something like 0.1 and merge those together, they will definitely close together. Okay. So let's say we move this vertex a little bit closer, or something like that. Okay. Now, if I want to just merge those together, I can select all of them. Okay. And the threshold is what's going to keep these from like disappearing. Let's just say we do the first row, just so we don't lose everything. So I'm going to go to Edit Mesh and show you how the merge tool works. So the threshold is really important. So at 0.1, let's see if it merges all those together. Okay. What happened was it merged most of them together. It found the ones that are closest. Okay, so let's go back. Okay. So if we want to do just those two, we have to turn the threshold down. So let's go ahead and go into Merge again. And let's turn that down to 0.01 and go ahead and merge. We got to, and again, it didn't do it because those are within that threshold space. So now I'm going to go in here and let's do something like 0.08, okay, and merge. Now it merged just those two. Okay. All right, it's kind of a guessing game with the merge tool. So the next tool, this segues right into the next tool, which is Edit Mesh Merge to Center. This one is super simple. That means that if I select those two and merge to center, let's take those two and Edit Mesh and merge to center. Okay, so it finds the average different distance between the two and then merges them to the center. Okay, we'll go to the next tool. The next tool is Transform. So I can click on an edge, go to Edit Mesh, and go to Transform in the option box. Go ahead and reset. Now the middle means we can transform that object from the middle, the start, and the end, whichever works best for us. So if I click on the end, okay, it will go ahead and manipulate that part right there. Now we've got this manipulator that allows us to switch between these transforms, so I can raise that, and this can come in handy, I guess. I don't use this much, but you can raise that, lower it, and get some interesting results with that transform. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and go to the next tool. Okay, so the next tool is Flip. So basically, I've got these vertices up. I want to flip these over. So I want this down over here and this over here. For some instance, for some reason, that would ever happen to you. I rarely use this, but if it does, this is how you flip. Alright, so make sure your vertices are selected that you want to flip over. Go to Edit Mesh and go to Flip. Select it. And then you need to find the center piece, and then when you click on that center edge, it will find the other part over there, and you can see that it flipped it over. Again, it's not reversing anything, it's not you're doing a mirror, it's just moving those vertices over here and it's flipping them. It's kind of a cool feature. I rarely use it, but it's a cool feature. So again, let me rotate this around. And let's kind of select these vertices up and let's go ahead and flip them over to the other side. So again, I'm going to go to Edit Mesh and Flip. It tells me select a mesh edge for symmetry. So if I click right here, it may not symmetrize correctly. If I click in the middle, I'll do it over there. So I click on that and there you go. It's pretty slick. It's pretty cool. Give it a try and we'll go on to the next tool. The next tool is called Symmetrize. So we're going to select this guy over here and we're going to go ahead and duplicate this over to the other side. So select your vertices and go to Edit Mesh and Symmetrize. And when you click on the edge that you would like to move it over to, you can do that. So that works really well. And let's go over here like this. and see if this will work. I'm going to try something a little different. So I'm going to do symmetrize again, and this time we're going to click over in the middle here like that, and you can see that we got that side. So you can continue doing that until you get all four corners. There we go. So that comes in handy. That's symmetrize, and we'll go ahead and we're going to stop here with this this part with the tools, and we'll continue on with part 2.